Marshall Martello, Chapter 3, United States Marshal Service. By midweek, another development arrived that Martello had not expected to happen quite so quickly. Washington had heard. The arrest of a local deputy involved in narcotics trafficking had traveled east through official channels faster than he had anticipated. A United States Marshal uncovering corruption inside a county office was the kind of development that made distant offices nervous. When the badge itself was tainted, the federal government tended to respond with more authority rather than less. When they dismounted, Martello stepped down from the front porch. He and Calhoun exchanged a simple nod. No words needed after all these years. Felmer wasted little time. Inside, he said. Once the door was closed against the noise of the street, Felmer turned to Martello. Washington's heard about the arrest. They're not happy a deputy was running narcotics under a badge. We're here to help you dig into it properly. Martello leaned against the desk. Appreciate the help, but I should tell you what I've found so far. He gave them a concise report. The pattern of irregular freight shipments moving through Sawtooth, the quiet money flowing where it shouldn't, and the name nightshaders that began to surface in whispers. He told him about a meeting with Eleanor Jane-Morgan, how she casually defended her husband and offered her sister Anna as company. He even mentioned the ride with Anna a few days later. She was nervous, Martello said. Didn't seem to know much, or if she did, she's a better liar than I give her credit for. But the whole thing felt like a setup. Calhoun raised an eyebrow. And, Martello continued, on the way back from that ride, 4 men jumped me in a narrow canyon. Nightshaders are men working for them. They made it clear I should stop asking questions. They could have killed me, but they didn't. Just delivered the message and disappeared. Felmer's expression hardened. You sure it was them? Positive, Martello said. They knew my name, knew I'd been poking around. One of them said the town folks work better when things stay the way they are. The room went quiet for a moment. Felmer finally spoke. That's why we are here. Washington wants this narcotics network shut down before it spreads any further. You've already done the hard part, Martello. You found the door. He looked at the others. Now we're going to open it. Martello was being promoted. Effective immediately, he would serve as senior marshal for the Sawtooth District, responsible for coordinating the investigation and overseeing federal enforcement in the region. It was not a ceremony. Felmer simply slid the paperwork across the desk. Martello looked at the document for a moment before signing it with a steady hand. Titles had never interested him much, but authority could be useful in the right hands. Felmer surprised him slightly with what came next. Rather than returning east after delivering the promotion, the chief marshal announced he intended to remain in Sawtooth for the time being. There's something else here, Felmer said, leaning back in his chair. Something bigger than a crooked deputy. I can feel it in my gut. The telegraph lines have been humming with rumors all the way back to Washington. Narcotics moving through the territories like this, it's not just local anymore. Martello did not disagree. He folded the promotion papers and set them aside. The conversation eventually turned to the 2 other marshals. Blake Ryder and Murph McGuire had been assigned to assist with a broader investigation. Their task would likely take them outside Sawtooth itself, particularly right towards Sawtooth County towards Kansas City. Felmer tapped the desk. You 2 will head south, look into the rail depots and freight yards. See what's really coming up those lines from the ports. Martello, you keep things steady here. Blake Ryder shifted in his seat, trying to sound confident. We'll get to the bottom of it, sir. If there's a network running through Kansas City, we'll find the threads. Murph McGuire remained silent, but his eyes flickered towards Martello. Calhoun spoke up, his voice low and steady. Just remember, this ain't the war anymore. These people don't wear uniforms. They wear suits and smiles. Don't let respectability fool you. Felmer nodded. Exactly. For now, the plan is simple. Gather information, follow the trail, see where it leads. No grand raids until we have found something. The room grew noticeably quieter when Kansas City was mentioned. No one in that room yet understood how complicated the trail would become or how dangerous the journey might prove for the men sent to follow it. But that part of the story had not unfolded yet. For the moment, Sawtooth County had gained 3 more marshals, and the investigation that Martello had begun alone was slowly turning into something far larger than a single arrest. And when something beyond the hills surrounding the town, the night shaders were already beginning to notice the growing number of men wearing federal badges in their territory. Rather than retreating after her encounter with Martello, Eleanor Jane-Morgan became more visible throughout the town. She appeared at merchants' counters, attended church socials and civic gatherings, spoke casually with the citizens in the streets of both Sawtooth and Kansas City. Her presence was never forceful, always warm, always reassuring, the kind of woman instinctively turned to in uncertain times. When Jesse's Morgan arrest came up in conversation, Eleanor handled it with the precision of a surgeon. She never challenged the law directly. Instead, she would tilt her head slightly, offering a sympathetic smile, and say things like, "Oh, I do wish people wouldn't rush to judgment. Jesse had always been a good man. A little too eager to help, perhaps, but caught in circumstances far bigger than himself. You know how those things go." She never accused Martello. She simply planted seeds. "Some men see shadows everywhere," she would murmur over tea at a general store, "especially men who spent their whole lives riding alone. I suppose when all you have is a hammer, every problem starts to look like a nail." Her words were always measured, never confrontational. She guided rather than pushed, suggested rather than stated. She understood something most people never grasped. Accusations create resistance, but gentle suggestions allow doubt to grow on its own. By planting small seeds of uncertainty that perhaps in the real disturbance in Sawtooth wasn't a crooked deputy, but the rigid new marshal stirring up the trouble where none had existed before. Eleanor allowed the townsfolk to reach their conclusions, and once the people believed an idea was their own, they defended it fiercely. She was a tactician in petticoats. While Martello hunted in the open with question and badges, Eleanor waged war with smiles, timing, and carefully chosen silences. She knew exactly which merchant needed reassurance about his shipments, which wife was worried about her husband's late nights, and which deputy feared losing his position. She moved through the social fabric of the two towns like a needle through cloth, invisible until the pattern was already changed. As those quiet moments spread through Sawtooth and Kansas City, another development began taking shape, one far more visible, far more influential. Election season was approaching, and Eleanor Jane-Morgan had decided it was time to step out from behind the curtain. Coming soon, Chapter 4, Kansas City Shenanigans.